It was rumored, well, the rumor was that there were 2 unmarked graves. Eldon wasn't convinced. He said probably when they dig plots for he and his wife, maybe they'll find bodies there. But she was half Native American. Her wife, Whitcomb, was Anglo, and his wife went by Kate, but she was Native American. You all know Nikola Tesla? Yeah. Nikola Tesla, the great, mad, crazy, wonderful genius of electricity. He was more the alternating current guy, and Edison was the direct current guy. You know, actually, when you started poking around Nikola Tesla, he was wild. He studied Vedic philosophy and just, well, he lived in Colorado Springs. There's a Tesla museum there, too. So this is The Death of Nikola Tesla, another poem for the Western Book. It makes reference to Cesar Vallejo, and if you know me, you know he's my favorite poet. And in fact, the epigraph for this book is a Vallejo quote, "Wash your skeleton every day," which I think is a mantra for my life. There's reference to that in here. When Nikola Tesla died, a little light went out from his groin. Sparrows pulled apart from his dead belly to reveal nomadic paths of bees, all alight with the northern lights, repeating themselves on journeys from Namibia to Brazil. Telegrams poured in from the 4 corners of grief. Buffalo Bill proclaimed from his grave that this is what happens when you kill the cow before the bull. Cesar Vallejo copied Tesla over and again into the skin of 5 notebooks in the script of 3 different hands. Admiral Perry and roustabout Cook said the feud was finally over, that there never really was a North Pole to dispute anyway. And Edison wept near his recorder, nearly electrocuting himself on the magnetic pull of the frayed cord. The good people of Colorado Springs, where Tesla had lived, gathered in black on a rare day of rain and feared the light might one day even go out of their religion. The indigenous tribes of Cheyenne Mountain journeyed to Pikes Peak to try to capture afternoon lightning, though they knew the peak by names less certain of posterity. Nocturnal animals shifted from possums to opossums, stink badgers to skunks, blaming rogue sparks of moonlight in the not yet buried sun for their confused callings. Tesla had died as he had died, the barn owl hooted all night long. He will live now, also as he has died. Nikolai and Pavlo and Yuri left the saloon and wondered why lamps in their mining hats had dimmed, why their words were somehow stuck in their throats, even after shots of whiskey and a beer back. The poets spoke in the strange way poets speak. Karl Marx proclaimed, "Death is the opiate of the people." John Bradley responded, "Rain pours through rain, even when it rains." Joe Gastiger guarded the grave and kept calling everyone darling in the most adorable way. And Vallejo said nothing, fingering instead the outline of his skeleton through a suit coat that had grown too large, a skeleton he had washed every day, that somehow in Tesla's death glowed in Paris or Peru with the auroras borealis of a life well deathed. Can you put that image up now? I think I might read that poem for John Cipollina. I'm crazy about music, as many people are. And the sacred triumvirate of guitar players for me has always been Jimi Hendrix at the peak, but also George Harrison and almost John Cipollina. He'll be up here in a minute. John Cipollina was a guitar player. Is this going to happen, or should I read a different poem?
It's going to happen.
John Cipollina was a guitar player for the San Francisco psychedelic band Quicksilver Messenger Service. And he kind of brought in like this kind of rogue sense of being a cowboy into American psychedelic music, and was often likened to being a guitar gunslinger. If we have
It's coming.
okay. So I want to wait for the image before I read you the epigraph for this poem. This is an elegy for him, but it'll be more potent when you see the image. There it is. All right. And I still listen to Cipollina almost every day, every other day. He died of emphysema. And in fact, I remember reading in the Rocky Mountain News that he was so addicted to cigarettes that when he was in his hospital bed, he would take the oxygen mask off and take a drag off of the cig. So this poem begins with an epigraph by Joel Selvin, who wrote a memoir about John Cipollina. And this is what Selvin says. Memory is weak on some details, but I keenly recall sharing a joint with Cipollina, who was dying at the time from emphysema, and watching him strap on his guitar, light up a Lucky Strike, and reach for his walker to head to the stage, cigarette hanging from his lip, guitar slung over his shoulder. It was an act of pure defiance, spitting in the face of nothing less than death itself, a rock and roll gunfighter walking out for one more shootout, heedless of his pending doom. And I call this elegy for John Cipollina, Electric Guitar Gunslinger. There are many ways to be a cowboy, John. You weren't always sad, picking your axe, slanting sunset hope into us. The prose poem is made of sentences, the body of the paragraph, our body, one long sentence. I said 17 times in a single minute. I counted. The video doesn't lie. That DVD of you in Germany piercing a Lucky onto a tuning key at the end of your guitar. Something is always crucifying something else as it crucifies itself. Iconography can't itch the scratch of worlds in reverse. Could be mu if transposed, the Zen equivalent to the supreme now. But you are not now, at least in the body, though you stir again in the paragraph's ash, in the stirrups of the inner ear. We must consider revising verb confusions as we ride our words backwards into our lives. Saddlebags on the Appaloosa, on the cover of Quicksilver's Happy Trails, could be flapping the road back. But back to where? What? There is filler in our lives, ums and uhs in place of om. Sometimes it's a cigarette, sometimes a joint. Perhaps we touch ourselves in the intimate dark. Not just the addicted are addicted to addiction. I breed sea lice in the salt flats of my words. Take a sentence and rub it up against the perspiration of my wife's left breast. There are many ways to be a gunslinger, John. Sometimes it's John Wayne just to lean on a walker on the Red River Trail across the stage. Whitman echoed Wordsworth, who echoed Badger Scratch in the Abilene dust. Sometimes our filler fills a hole with hurt. Dirt dusting the burning leaves leaves our music sore. Saddle tramped and blistered. Or was that you plucking the string, drawing vibrato from your whammy bar as if water from a bell, as if cowpokes had camped in your hair all life long? There are ways. There are many. There are too many ways to have our hurt. The time of emphysema and the time to defy. Anyone who makes plans for after the revolution is a reactionary, Bakunin said. Today is a good day to shy, answered Red Cloud at the Treaty of Fort Laramie. The prose poem is made of sentences, scratch, itch, tuck, your music, one long chord you somehow pulled out of thin hair, lucky strike dangling from your lip. The burnt leaves of your leave-taking, struck gold in the mine shafts of your lung. Lean on it, John. Roll your own, this time of cowboys and musk, of guitar messengers and messenger services, of silver quickening the sad glad of your heart. You didn't always limp, dragging a spur like that through the high noon dust. I say, between words, between worlds, against the desperation of your desperado plea. Even from your grave, outlaw man, you still plant your axe in our ear, slanting sunset hope right through us. Thank you. This is a letter, one of the letter poems to a dear friend of Marianne's and mine, Michelle Comstock. I don't think it needs a bunch of explanation. It's a letter to Michelle from Victor. Victor is a small mining town where we went last summer and did some research for this book, actually. And this is the poem that came of it. It was Victor's really a place of, it's right next to Cripple Creek. Cripple Creek had all the money. Victor was where the working people lived. And they had strong labor unions that, of course, the feds tried to break, and there were big scuffles, and actually the feds called in troops at one point during what is called the Colorado Labor Wars. Some of that's referenced in here. And there's names. Again, there was a marvelous cemetery we went to in Victor. And again, I bring in the real names of these people because I want to honor the dead of the people who are not in the history books. Letter to Michelle from Victor. Scrabblings of dusk, conjugated grief. Some people are dead, dying, died. Workers working still, the mines. Michelle, we might second say the heat. Admit July, Colorado dry, into our bones. Profess to know the many sways of feldspar and gold. We might bow before the ciborium of sunset, cutting back across this lac or that, high here in Victor. 9,695 feet. The Colorado Labor Wars. Union strike still struck, like a lantern about to tip. Deaths still dead, sea gone grown. The strange mouthings of primitive fish, high and rock and tight. The way religion promulgates the past. There was a little girl in a long denim skirt once went door to door for Christ. Her father was a pastor. Her mother saw the end of the world, all the way from Bedford, Indiana to Oskaloosa. Iowa is more than farming animals and calm. Sometimes our past unscrews our shoes. You step this way, that, have taken strides away from your early Bible Belt life. One buckle, two. How were you and I born into the same breath? Why this incarnation, here, now? Marianne says Victor is more than ghosts. The Ashanti Mining Company stoking Rocky Mountain gold all the way back to Johannesburg, lugging it out of the bones of the many soaked. Miners coughing dust as if 2 packs of Luckies a day. Backwards, the lines try to survive. Slavs in Pueblo, Ludlow Greeks, the German dead of Victor. Dead, dying, decried, masked, as if morality was not a play. Right and wrong never performed, as if Euripides was not an Athenian. He saw the veins of men as a net the gods made to catch us in like wild beasts, the poet wrote, and was right. here, now. Just 5 miles southeast of Cripple Creek, this town can't walk. 5 miles from where it gave the gold and built a name, gave all its blood and hard hurt, this place of graves, M.M. Demery, Ella Porter, Minnie Denson, 2 dogs named Shep, donkey dust of mules gone quick over the sluicy ledge, the horse part of the mule, all panic ear and twitch. We have been made by truly 2, multiples of moaning dust. We have been children for far too long. You still walk door to door, my friend, inside your most private. Test this latch and that. Lug the donkey dust of your father's church into how and why you cry. I too flinch at the voice of strain. Parents who no longer loved, even themselves, who in feeling unloved just tried to survive. Strange mouthings of almost human pain, night upon night, dry and tight in the shy animal spine. This raccoon or that, foxblood in our sleep, possum our mouths out with toads. Marianne calls it quaint, the old Victor Hotel, this ghost town most, a town of 445, only a brothel turned breakfast joint, one rail of men who exhaust the mind, hunched at the bar ironically called the Young Buck. And all those boarded doors, newspapered glass, ranch hand sad, 10,000 feet you'd think would be closer to the Lord of Hosts, like a lantern that in losing its grip tips heaven light into hay. We are all burning up inside from mind dusting the light. Your father was a church, does well you say with grief. My mother and father and me divorced at age 3. 1,000. 2. Children's games our voice. Count the seconds about to be our lives. Why this life for us, this life now? You and me destined to meet? Victor doesn't stand for victory, but for the man who tossed his name into a hat. We should all be so lucky to be christened by chance. Backwards, we turn to our past for shoes. Step inside, this foot, that. Walk with our immaculate hands. Drag our monkey-knuckled self to the mineral shelf. The Western Federation of Miners is dead as a thrown bolt latch. Strike, struck, struct. Conjugate the match. Friction the boot. Drag the sulfur up through the sole of the foot into our most fretful stance. Second say the heat. We are here, Michelle. Ingots of ignoble birth. Brilliance of light then dead. The strange mouthings of fish, like mimes caught in the pant, fossilized and fixed, the sea gone grown, found in this town, found only in rocks in the search for gold, dynamite blast and pickaxe stance, the strange, strained wraithings of now. Forgot to mention that Victor got its name because somebody tossed their name into a hat. There was a 4th of July, like a lottery, and the guy's name, wasn't the guy's name Victor? Marianne? You told me this story.